This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good Friday afternoon. Welcome aboard. It's the last day at the office for Elon Musk. He'll join President Trump this afternoon for a White House goodbye ceremony.
I agree with much of what the administration does, but we have differences of opinion.
Today marks the 130-day limit for Musk to serve as a special government employee. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt says Musk may be gone, but Doge will live on.
Surely the mission of Doge will continue, and many Doge employees are now political appointees and employees of our government.
The outgoing Doge administrator says he is exiting the White House with mixed emotions about the president.
I'm a little stuck in a bind where I'm like, well, I don't want to, speak out against the administration, but I don't want to. I also don't want to take responsibility for everything the administration is doing.
Musk was tasked with rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. The actions of Doge directly led to the elimination of hundreds of thousands of jobs across this country. Trump tariffs reinstated. That's the other big story today. President Trump's controversial trade policy being upheld for now by a federal appeals court. Legal analyst Laura Jarrett.
This is not the final word from this appeals court. This is not a decision on the merits. They have given the challengers here, the business owners in the states that sued, until next Friday, until next week to actually respond and to say why, in fact, these tariffs should still be blocked.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick thinks the tariffs will ultimately pay off for the American people.
Changing the world's trade policies take a little time and create a little uncertainty, but you could see the U.S. economy double its growth rate because of these policies.
Trump's tariffs have caused uncertainty, not just on Wall Street, but also Main Street. Many companies are bracing for supply chain problems and price spikes down the road. Are you struggling to pay the bills? If you are, you're not alone. CBS News pollster Anthony Salvanto.
3/4 saying that their income is still not keeping up with inflation. And for context, it's been what's weighing on people's evaluations of the economy for years now.
Salvanto says this could pose a problem for Republicans in next year's midterms, as they were elected last year largely with a mandate to lower the cost of living. A federal judge in Boston says Harvard University can continue enrolling international students. This as the White House tries to block that Ivy League school from letting in any more foreigners.
The administration wants direct oversight over Harvard's curriculum and hiring practices, with President Trump repeatedly accusing the school of anti-Semitism. Homeland Security is also demanding disciplinary information about all of Harvard's international students.
NBC's Stephanie Gosk, a third of Harvard's student body hails from other countries, a fact that President Alan Garber noted during yesterday's graduation ceremony.
The class of 2025 from down the street, across the country, and around the world.
Overseas, a glacier collapse in the Swiss Alps has buried an entire village in Switzerland. That village was 90% destroyed. The village was evacuated prior to that landslide. One man still missing in the debris. Israel says it will accept. Hamas says it will reject. A new ceasefire proposal to wind down the war in Gaza. It's a war that Hamas started when it invaded Israel October 7th, 2023. The peace proposal calls for the release of 10 living hostages, 18 deceased hostages, and a 60-day truce. Joe Biden's former aides may be subpoenaed to testify under oath before Congress about alleged attempts to cover up the ex-president's mental and physical health while he was still in office. Kentucky Republican James Comer chairs the House Oversight Committee.
4 staffers that we've identified as the main gatekeepers for the Biden White House. They're behind the scenes. They fly under the radar. These are the unelected bureaucrats Democrats that we believe had an overwhelming influence over Joe Biden and could have possibly been serving as de facto presidents of the United States.
The focal point of the Comer investigation will reportedly be Biden's use of an auto pen for official business. Planned Parenthood, now the nation's leading provider of sex change operations and kids. Much of the transgender treatment that is happening at Planned Parenthood happens without medical oversight. The abortion behemoth provides more than 120,000 transgender services every year, and much of those treatments are happening on minors without parental consent. And talk about your whiz kid. 13-year-old Faizan Zaki of Allen, Texas, won the Scripps National Spelling Bee last night in suburban Washington, D.C. He won on this word.
Éclaircissement. Éclaircissement. That is correct.
Éclaircissement means to clear up something obscure. It is a French word. Zaki got $50,000 for spelling it correctly. The whiz kid plans to donate a large chunk of his winnings to charity. Still to come on the Noon Report. For a Friday, Trump in the Berg. Help for vets with PTSD and counting cows on family farms.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. The weekend is upon us. Another cool weekend is ahead with mixed conditions in terms of clouds, sun, and showers. I'll have the details in that forecast coming up. We'll see you in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. Let's check the headlines from New York and Pennsylvania. President Trump will be at a rally in Pittsburgh this afternoon. It's his first rally since his re-election. It follows the announcement of a steel deal with Japan. That deal keeps U.S. steel manufacturing in the Steel City. The $14 billion deal could generate up to 70,000 jobs. The wet weather this spring is caused headache for local farmers. They depend on the weather to get those crops in.
This has been a challenging year, definitely because of the wet, cool weather we've had, not much sun.
Taylor Henderson and his son Marcus are fourth and fifth generation farmers in New York's North Country.
We're all kind of in the same boat, and it's stressful at times. Yields won't be to where we usually have them.
The Hendersons are running behind with spring planting due to the lack of cooperation from the weather department.
Normally by this time of year, we're probably 75 to 85% planted. This year, we're probably about 15%.
The Hendersons say crop insurance should help cover some of their losses, but not nearly enough. New York Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski raising a stink about legislation that limits the number of cows allowed on dairy farms. 2 New York City Democrats are sponsoring this bill. Sempolinski says downstate Democrats who know nothing about farming have no business telling New York's dairymen how to run their business. 95% of all the farms in New York are family-owned. Sempolinski says the cow limit legislation, if adopted, would devastate these farms. The bill before the state assembly would ban farmers from owning any more than 700 cows. Sempolinski says it takes 60,000 cows per day to supply the milk that's used at the Great Lakes cheese plant in Franklinville, New York. Family-run dairy farms in Allegheny, Cattaraugus, and Steuben counties are supplying that milk on a daily basis. A Western Pennsylvania school district is cutting staff in order to tackle a budget deficit. Family Life's Brian Query has that story. New at noon.
The Armstrong County, Pennsylvania School District released a statement Thursday saying they plan to furlough 14 positions as they are facing a $2.9 million budget deficit. This includes 2 nurse positions as well as the positions of all French teachers and library positions K-12. While the libraries will remain open, the French program will be cut. Kevin Landstrom, president of the district's teachers union, said these cuts will have a lasting impact on the community. The Armstrong School Board will meet for an open caucus June 19th, followed by their monthly regular meeting to vote on finalizing the proposed cuts on June 23rd. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. There's new guidance from the Trump White House on COVID shots. The CDC no longer recommending the vaccine for healthy children and pregnant women. Dr. Thomas Russo is an infectious disease expert at the University of Buffalo.
Pregnant women that get vaccinated develop high levels of antibody directed against COVID and pass these antibodies on to their baby, thereby giving them protection in those first 6 months of life when they're particularly vulnerable from COVID infection.
A few hundred Americans die every week still from COVID, and every week in New York there are nearly 300 new cases of the coronavirus. A pilot program at Harrisburg University in Pennsylvania uses hyperbaric chambers to help veterans suffering from PTSD. The Aurelius Project, as it's known, employs oxygen and brain stimulation therapy on vets, and it's yielding results. Army vet Mike O'Keefe tells ABC 27.
My depression's gone. I'm just motivated again. Like I feel the fog is lifted.
Dr. Joseph Maroon is a brain surgeon at UPMC in Pittsburgh and a consultant for the Aurelius Project.
We celebrated Memorial Day a few days ago. Every day is a Memorial Day for 20 veterans plus or minus who commit suicide due to depression, anxiety, and PTSD.
Private businessmen funding the Aurelius Project are not charging the veterans who are currently enrolled in that innovative program at Harrisburg University. Dozens of Rite Aid stores are shutting down throughout the Family Life listening area. The failing pharmacy chain filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection for the second time in a year earlier this month. Those Rite Aid stores will be no more effective June the 4th. That's next Wednesday. More than 300 Rite Aids across the country are closing their doors for good next week. And changes are underway for Buffalo's Chippewa Entertainment District. How come? Family Life's Dee Haley explains.
City of Buffalo officials have unveiled a plan to close Chippewa Street to vehicle traffic from Delaware Avenue to Franklin Street between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights beginning tonight and lasting through Labor Day. The goal is to keep the entertainment district lively, but also make it safer. A trend of violence has plagued the area lately, including an incident last weekend where 3 people were stabbed. Banning vehicular traffic on select weekends in the past has eased conflict and also gives emergency vehicles better access to the area. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Thank you much, Dee. Sports is next. It's the 2-minute drill right here on the Family Life Noon Report. The NBA Eastern Conference Finals not over yet. The New York Knicks staving off elimination with a 111-94 win last night over the Indiana Pacers. Game 5 from Madison Square Garden. Knicks center Karl Anthony Towns.
I think in this series we haven't lacked scoring. It's been more about us not stopping them from scoring. And I thought we did a great job tonight of upping the pressure, making sure that we make it more difficult for them to get those open looks and get those shots that they got comfortable last game.
Jalen Brunson led all scorers with 32 points. New York now trails the best-of-7 series 3-2. Indy will try to close out that series on home court Saturday night. The Pacers haven't been to the NBA Finals in 25 years. The Stanley Cup Finals officially set, and it's a rematch from last year. The Edmonton Oilers are going back after defeating the Dallas Stars 6-3 in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals last night. Edmonton lost last year's Stanley Cup championship in 7 games to the Florida Panthers. The Panthers making their 3rd straight trip to the Stanley Cup Finals. Limited action, Major League Baseball. The Blue Jays routed Oakland 12-0. Tampa Bay beat the Astros 13-3. The Phillies split a doubleheader with Atlanta winning the first 5-4, then losing the nightcap 9-3. Interleague play saw the Washington Nationals defeat the Seattle Mariners in extra innings. 9-3 your final. Nats manager Dave Martinez.
They were jacked up. Like I said before, these guys don't quit. They're going to play hard. They're relentless, and I love it.
And in NFL news, a premier tight end could be on the move. ESPN reporting that the Miami Dolphins are shopping Jonnu Smith to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Smith expressed an interest in reworking his contract. The 29-year-old set a franchise record last season for receptions and receiving yards. by a tight end. At the Family Life Sports Desk, I'm Bob Price. And still to come on the Noon Report, a Friday edition, getting a grip on social media addiction. We'll talk to the Capital Connection crew about that. Kevin Williams says warmer, drier weather will arrive next week. And at the end of the broadcast, you're not going to believe who just died. It's a head scratcher for sure, and we'll have the story right after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. In his book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, Neil Postman presciently warned of a few consequences of an entertainment-driven age. Among them was the temptation of celebrityism, in which fame supplants expertise and style supplants substance. What Postman did not predict, however, was how much worse it would all get in the age of influencers, or how the church would be especially vulnerable to the forces of entertainment culture, including what might be called Christian celebrityism. Now, there are, of course, wonderful stories of high-profile conversions like Chuck Norris and Kirk Cameron. Chuck Colson could be included in that list, though his very public conversion to Christ predated our current age of celebrity politicians. But then there's that longer list of celebrity converts who, after an enthusiastic beginning, went completely off the rails. The latest addition to that list is rapper Kanye West. Back in 2019, after announcing his conversion to Christianity, West launched a new album and a mini-tour called Jesus is King. His songs quoted from the Bible extensively and exhorted parents to raise children who put their trust in Jesus. West even praised Chick-fil-A for being closed on Sundays. Today, after a couple rounds of psychiatric treatments and a messy divorce, West is literally singing a different tune. In fact, his newly released single is called Hail Hitler. In it, he praises the German dictator who started the Second World War and murdered 6 million Jews. And the song follows several years of anti-Semitic and pro-Nazi remarks from the artist, including denying the Holocaust. The new song was quickly taken down by most major social media and streaming platforms, but the music video, which featured a clip from one of Hitler's speeches, can still be found on X, formerly Twitter, where it's accumulated millions of views and shares. Not only is the song directly ideologically opposed to his previous musical production, but West added significant fuel to an ongoing fire of online anti-Semitism and historical revisionism about the Nazis. Now, celebrity gossip is the stuff of tabloids, but how Christians handle celebrity conversions really matters. Like all image bearers, celebrities can and do come to faith in Christ. Like all new converts, celebrities are susceptible to temptations and sinful behaviors. Christians should welcome celebrity converts into the fold, but not because they're celebrities. We welcome them because they're made in the image of God and they found their Creator and Savior. Though many Christian cliches are theologically misleading, this one's accurate. The ground is level at the foot of the cross. In other words, no one's more or less qualified or more or less deserving of God's free gift of salvation. We all stand condemned by God's justice. We are all in need of His grace. Celebrities need rescue from their sins as much as any of us do. In the parable of the sower, Jesus described the various kinds of soil of receptivity to the gospel and what might happen if the seed falls into that soil. But there wasn't a celebrity soil. There's not a celebrity category that plays by different rules. The human condition is universal. It transcends fame and fortune. Also, celebrity converts need to be discipled to follow Jesus as much as any of us do. Being talented or beautiful or charismatic on camera is no shortcut to what Dallas Willard called the renovation of the heart. Kanye needs Christ, like we all do, as much after his conversion as before. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, John, thank you for that. The weekend is here. Kevin Williams is near.
Here is your family life weather forecast for this afternoon. There'll be some sun, clouds will win out. There'll be some showers, a few rumbles moving through parts of Pennsylvania, approaching the southern tier of New York with high temperatures, mid-60s to the mid-70s. It'll be cloudy tonight into tomorrow with some rain at times and showers, a couple of rumbles of thunder for some. Low temperatures in the 50s tonight, only in the lower mid-60s tomorrow. Sunday, cool, breezy. Clouds, sun, a couple of scattered showers. High temperatures in the upper 50s to the middle 60s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Things turn around weather-wise starting next week, and it is Friday, the 30th of May. Congratulations, you've made it. You're plugged into the Noon Report on Family Life. Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you, the listener, direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. Their names are Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute and Jason McGuire with New York Families. Jason, I want to start with you this week. You've told me many times on this program, this is the time of year you love to hate, because this is the time of year you get a lot of those legislative Hail Marys that come out of left field, deals that get done in the closing days of the legislative session. So many hot button cultural issues. What are lawmakers working on these days at the New York State Capitol?
Yeah, it's an interesting end of session. We've got really 2 weeks left of our legislative session, and every session's a little different. This one seems to be ending with a whimper. There's no real call for major legislation in the final days. Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins is already beginning to shut things down to leave on June 12th. Just not a lot of big ticket items, and everybody kind of seems okay with that.
Yeah.
There may not be a big ugly this year.
Yeah, and you had mentioned that assisted suicide bill that had passed in the House, saying the vote could be imminent in the Senate. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, does it?
Well, we're trying to keep it that way. I mean, the strategy is really just to not get it to the floor of the Senate, to try to keep it off of there. Thus far, there does not seem to be a great appetite for rushing it to the floor, and we're going to try to maintain that momentum until the clock runs out on June 12th.
All right. Well, Michael, the Pennsylvania state budget deadline is fast approaching, just over a month away. What are the issues that you're watching as lawmakers try to make sense of this more than $50 billion spending plan this year?
Yeah, there's not a lot of sense to be made in it. As was the case with Democrat governors like Ed Rendell, Tom Wolf, and now Josh Shapiro. They propose budgets that have big, fat spending increases and then look to fill the gap with a combination of tax increases and even more legalizing or expanding vice like casino and online gambling, and is especially pressing right now, allowing for expansive commercial sale of high-potency marijuana products all across our state. So the marijuana issue is of top concern for us, and we've talked about why here many times. Also at issue, though, is whether or not we'll see growth or cutbacks in school choice opportunities here in Pennsylvania. Expanded school choice is really the future of education in America, and we're pressing to see such expansion right here in the Commonwealth.
Jason, I want to kind of go off script a little bit, talk about something we don't spend a lot of time on here, but it's going to become an issue in the fall when that bell-to-bell cell phone ban takes effect in New York. The Empire State, just the fourth state to enact this statewide ban on digital devices. Do you think this goes far enough at addressing the root problems of social media addiction, the mental health problems that we're seeing in kids today?
Well, the recently enacted plan that will be coming to schools in September is a state top-down issue, if you will. I really wish this was handled at the local level. I would lean towards that, but I am thankful that something is being done regarding the use of these devices in schools. It is problematic, but it doesn't address issues that are before school, that are after school, that are snuck-in phones, that are other things. And really, there have to be so many other protections for protecting kids from what they find on those devices. It's just a whole different world today, and we support ideas such as legislation that would really control things at the App Store so that minors cannot download apps that will allow them to access things like dangerous pornography on their phones. So there's a lot of work to be done for this anxiety generation.
There really is. As I just saw a study this morning, Michael, where for every hour a teenager spends glued to a screen, the risk for mental health disorders increases by more than 20% for those children. The problem's only getting worse. Would you like to see, because I know other states have talked about things like parental consent laws in Florida or Texas, would you like to see Pennsylvania follow in the footsteps of those states and try to curtail, if not an outright ban, curtail social media's influence on children?
Well, I think we would, and I know that our team here, the policy team, is working on age verification legislation to protect young people. One of the reasons why just last week we hosted an event in Lancaster featuring Pennsylvania's new Attorney General, Dave Sunday, who's a Republican and the former DA of York County. So at the conclusion of our Q&A with him, I asked him how the audience might pray for him, and here's how he replied. He said, "I would ask you to pray for children and young people to be protected from the despicable evils and terrible dangers that exist in the online world." And then he talked about his agency's effort to fight child trafficking and predators who use their access right into our children's bedrooms through their cell phones to lure them, or at the very least, expose them to terrible perversion.
That was good. Jason, the great electrification of New York, for lack of a better term, kind of hit a snag last week when voters went to the polls on school budget day. A lot of the districts also shot down electric bus purchases. This is something that it seems to me, at least, that the harder the state of New York pushes, the more the voters of New York push back and say, we don't want this. How is the state going to enforce the governor's green energy agenda if the voters are refusing to approve this at the local level?
Yeah, every once in a while we're reminded that those in government really have their authority from two sources. One, God is the one that sets them up and takes them down. And two, under our form of government, it requires the consent of the governed. Right now we are seeing that the governed are not offering their consent in this issue. And so that's really problematic. As you know, in New York by 2035, you're supposed to not even be able to purchase a gas vehicle, zero emissions, and we're just nowhere near that. Those electric vehicles are still sitting on lots across the state, and dealers I'm talking to are having a hard time moving them. So I don't see it happening. I think already you're seeing signs from Albany politicians that they're beginning to slowly back away from those hard mandates, and that's going to be problematic going forward for those that are really pursuing these green earth initiatives.
Yeah. Well, Michael, Penn State has such a footprint in the Commonwealth. The news there, the 7 satellite campuses will be shutting down, a lot of them in rural areas. What has been your reaction to what Penn State has decided? Do you think this was the right course of action for that school to take?
Well, honestly, these announced closures are the result of reality hitting higher education right in the face. This is a combination of changing demographics and simple economics that are leading to these shutdowns. During the 2008 economic downturn, the birth rate dropped in a big way. And demographers have been warning that when 2026 comes around, colleges are going to be in a world of hurt because of a lack of students. Just not enough babies, now 18-year-olds. So I can't speak to the specific reasons for the choices Penn State Board made for the closures, excepting that it does look like it will have a disproportionate impact on rural residents.
Yeah, that's a great point. Jason, one-party rule has ruled the roost in Albany since Democrats took control of the state Senate in 2018. Any reason to believe that will change in next year's elections?
Well, the state legislature is going to be difficult to change that Democratic supermajority or near supermajority. I think you'll see some seats get picked up, but I don't think you're going to see that heavy swing one way or the other. But I think that probably when you look at some of the statewide races, particularly the governor's race and the attorney general's race, there could be some real vulnerabilities there. Recent polling shows that if Elise Stefanik, a representative from the North Country, were to get into the race, she's entering it only 1 point behind the current sitting Democratic governor. That's pretty interesting when you think of where we are as a state and what could happen in those midterm elections.
Yeah, George Pataki was a name we haven't said in quite a few years. He was the last Republican governor, and that's going back more than 20 years, I believe. Michael, the deadline to register for this summer's City on a Hill program is tomorrow. That's Saturday, May 31st. The Pennsylvania Family Institute has been sponsoring this week-long event every July for the past 25 years. Why is this such a priority for your ministry?
Well, we love every year the impact that City on the Hill has on these young high school students who come and the long-lasting impact it's had on them over the years. We stay in touch with a lot of these students that have been part of City on the Hill, the City on the Hill alums over the years, and see the amazing impact that it has had on them in developing their leadership skills and confirming their Christian faith and worldview. So we think it's important to plant seeds for the future. Caleb Steindl, one of our staff members who himself was a high schooler who went to City on the Hill, he said the next generation of leaders is here now. And so we need to be planting seeds and infusing a biblical worldview into them so they can be the leaders we need in the future.
All right, and that fills up fast. Again, the deadline tomorrow, Saturday. If you want more information about City on a Hill, if you can't get in this year, maybe next. If folks want to find out more, Michael, where can they find you online?
PAFamily.org.
And stay involved on all that's happening in Albany, the final days of the legislative session. Jason, where can folks learn more about New York Families?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
Doing a great work in Albany and Harrisburg. Capital Connection, the name of the program, comes your way Fridays during the Noon Report. Now, you can subscribe, listen to, and share Capital Connection, as well as all our original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or our website, familylife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The weekend is upon us, and looks like another unsettled, cool one to be sure. Of course, we mark the meteorological arrival of summer on Sunday, but it's a cool weekend with the expectation, though, of brighter skies next week and a warming trend. In the meantime, for this afternoon, there'll be some sun. Clouds will win out. There'll be some showers, a few rumbles moving through parts of Pennsylvania, approaching the southern tier of New York with high temperatures, mid-60s to the mid-70s. It'll be cloudy tonight into tomorrow with some rain at times and showers, a couple of rumbles of thunder for some. Low temperatures in the 50s tonight, only in the lower mid-60s tomorrow. Sunday, cool, breezy, clouds, sun, couple of scattered showers. High temperatures in the upper 50s to the middle 60s.
All right, great work at the Weather Center. Thank you, Kevin. Finally at noon, this is going to make your head spin, folks. I didn't believe it till I read it and then read it again. The last living grandson of America's 10th president, John Tyler, that grandson has just died. He died less than a week ago. Harrison Ruffin Tyler passed away Sunday at the age of 96. His grandfather, the 10th president, was born in the year 1790. He left the Oval Office more than 179 years ago after serving from 1841 to 1845. That was 20 years before the Civil War, folks. President John Tyler had 15 children, more than any other president. He was 63 when his 13th child, Lyon, was born. Now, Lyon was 75 when his son, Harrison Ruffin Tyler, was born. Yeah, he's the Tyler that just passed away, and he was born in the year 1928. The time between President John Tyler's birth and his grandson's death spans 235 years. And that's our world, the world we live in. Friday, the 30th of May. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.